Welcome back to another live stream. This is a very important live stream. So first of all, I have to say that I apologize for making a big mistake. Earlier today, you had a Reuters article that came out with the idea that the Trump tariffs were going to be postponed until March 1st. And I made that video and I was like, hey, that's awesome, man. Wow, look, we got more time. Sorry, I'm just adding another light here. We got a little bit more time to figure things out. And right after I posted it, so I was in a different background from this morning, right? I'm in a different place. I was in Tofino with my family for the past 3 days. We left this morning. In fact, right after I recorded and filmed that video, we packed up the car with the kids. And then I get told while I'm on the road that the White House press secretary came out and immediately debunked the Reuters article and said, no, tariffs are not being postponed to March 1st. In fact, we are really doing it tomorrow. And so I just want to apologize. I absolutely want to apologize for putting out that information and not having the time to correct it. For anyone who's been to Tofino, it's a long, windy road with like minimal cell service until you pretty much get to like Port Alberni, Coombs, or Parksville, Qualicum Beach. And I'm in the vehicle and I'm driving with my kids. I'm driving. So I didn't have time to make a correction short or video, but here we are trying to make up for that. So my bad. Second of all, we're getting tariffs put on us tomorrow, and holy crap, it's not just tariffs on our goods. It's also going to be on our oil and gas starting February 18th. Talk about something that's catastrophic. I mean, this is horrible. And I don't even think that Canadian politicians are ready for this retaliatory response, because if this is how big and how combative Trump is coming right out the gate, I don't want to see what happens once Canada puts on some sort of retaliatory response and then Trump puts on his retaliatory to the retaliatory response. This is going to get very, very, very ugly. Already the stock market has really reacted to this news because it still happened. I think it happened right before closing of the market. You have people that are really rushing to the gas stations, filling up jerry cans. People are stocking up on beans and rice and ammo and everything. This is bad. Now, I like Trump. I support Trump. I don't necessarily, well, obviously I don't support this. Any Canadians like, yeah, we deserve it. No, for sure we don't deserve these tariffs, but I still stand firm, even though every time I say it, I'm losing subscribers, just like I said this morning. I still stand firm on the fact that I don't think our politicians should at all be focusing on a retaliatory response. I think what I personally would like to see is the following. I would like to see our politicians, whether they're, I don't care who it is. This to me is good. And I'm not saying you earn my vote by doing this. I'm just saying you want to show that you're serious. Go to the border. Go to the border and talk with the media, talk with Premier Danielle Smith about what is actually happening with the response to fix our borders. Danielle Smith has already launched a series of Blackhawks, helicopters. She's already launched a response of drug sniffing dogs. She is carrying the weight of Canada herself right now by trying to solve all this stuff. So Pierre Poilievre, I would like to see the Conservatives have a hard stance on this, go to the border and say, My name is Pierre Poilievre, and I'm running to be Canada's next Prime Minister. We're here at the border showing you how fast of a response Canada is taking right now. When I'm Prime Minister, this right now, these issues that Trump has brought up, which are real issues that affect Canadians and Americans, will never arise. That's what I would like to see. That's a bit of a photo op thing, but that's just what I would personally like to see. And even if it was like a liberal that did it, I know this is probably going to be unpopular, but even if it was Chrystia Freeland or Mark Carney or one of these people, just go to the border, or Trudeau even, go to the border and say, look, this is what we're doing. We're working with Premier Danielle Smith, and we're trying to make this happen so that we can get the tariffs removed, because we know that Trump, if he gets what he wants, will remove the tariffs, and we won't have to go into a trade war with America. That's what I would personally like to see. Is that going to happen? I don't know. I just feel like if Trudeau does it, though, he would absolutely say something that would probably make it worse. So I'm going to stay on the first point of I would like to see Pierre Poilievre do that. I'd like to see the Conservatives do that, because Danielle Smith is part of the Conservative team, not the federal, but she is a Alberta UCP, right? And so that would make sense for Pierre to go and join the premier, the Conservative premier, and say, look, this is what our Premier of Alberta is doing, and this is what I will do to make sure that this never happens. And to make matters worse, our Canadian dollar, if I'm not mistaken, has hit an all-time low. Like, it was at 69 cents, and now it's below. I think it's almost 68 or 67 cents. So our dollar is trash right now. People are buying as much American dollars as they possibly can, because there's so much anticipation that our dollar could even fall to 60 cents or theoretically in the 50 cents. That's insane. So we're in a total state of panic right now, and this is not good. And that's what we're going to be talking about right now on this live stream. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another live stream, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you guys to hit the like button. Please hit the like button and please subscribe. I am being canceled, I guess, and it would really help combat that. Now let's take a look at a series of clips and news articles and everything that is just showing how wild Trump is right now. This version of Trump is something that people are thinking that they're prepared for, but they're not. This is a wild card Trump. Trump version 1 was a wild card because you didn't know what to expect. He's not a politician. He's a businessman. He says and does radical things, but now he's doing actual like crazy things right out the gate. And that's like awesome for America. If you're an American and pro-America, kudos to you. But to the rest of the world, everybody is getting slapped with tariffs, and there's nothing that everyone else can do to combat it other than just eventually bowing down and accepting defeat to the world superpower, America. I know it's probably not a popular opinion, because there's apparently a lot of conservatives out there that think that we should be having a retaliatory response, but yeah, when that doesn't work out, I'll gladly welcome you back to this channel, because yeah, it's not going to end well for Canadians. But let's take a look here at what might actually end well. You have Trump saying that he's in discussion with Putin to end the terrible war in Ukraine. So that's a pretty big start to him being president. And he's like a week in. Let's take a look.
On your call with Vladimir Putin.
Well, we'll be speaking. We'll be speaking, and I think we'll perhaps do something that'll be significant. We want to end that war. That war would have never started if I was president, and we want to end that war. That war is a horrible war. Millions of young people are being killed, mostly on the lines now, mostly soldiers. But the cities have been largely destroyed, many of them. They're like demolition sites. But the soldiers are just shooting at each other. You know, it's a very flat land. I said this the last time, very, very flat land. The only place that a bullet stops is when it hits a person. And they're hitting a lot of people. They're hitting a lot of soldiers, but on both sides. You know, I think Russia would probably say close to 800,000, and Ukraine 600,000 or 700,000. And it's just a senseless situation, and it's got to stop. So whatever I can do to stop it, and we are having discussions, yes.
Ongoing, already scheduled and ongoing?
Already talking, yes.
So you've already spoken to Vladimir Putin?
I don't want to say that, but we are having very serious
Is
discussions about...
there a reason you don't want to?
We are, well, I just don't want to say that. We're having very serious discussions about that war, trying to get it ended.
With Russia?
With Russia, yeah.
Wow. I mean, he's doing more in the first I don't know, week of being president than it seems like Biden did in the past 4 years. Now let's take a look here at another issue that's being pointed out by Americans that Canada has to worry about. So now there's a lot of issues that Canada has that's affecting America, but there's a massive issue that is going to affect Canada coming from America. And this could also have catastrophic repercussions. I've said this before Trump won the election. I said, when he wins, he's going to be doing a massive deportation, which isn't a proprietary thing, to my opinion. Everybody knows that. It came out of Trump's mouth himself. But I said that you're going to see a lot of illegal immigrants flee. A lot of people, even citizens, are going to flee America because of fear of Trump. They don't like Trump, whatever. They're left-leaning Democrats, or they're just flat out illegals and they don't want to be deported. And now it's being brought to the mainstream media as that's a serious issue that Americans don't seem to think Canada is ready for. And I got to say, I agree. I don't think Canada is ready for the massive amount of people that are going to be fleeing from America to Canada. But let's take a look here at this clip.
With the Canadians, obviously, the border is one of the biggest, if not the biggest land border in the world. We share common interests there. I think they don't want to see their country filled with fentanyl either. I think if I were them, I'd be concerned that with the crackdown on illegal immigration in the United States, people would flee north into Canada. So you would think we'd be able to work with them very cooperatively on border security. And then there's a broader trade imbalance with them that the president wants to address as well. And so that's why those conversations are important. These are not hostile moves.
Are these tariffs going to kick in on Saturday?
Well, we'll see. I mean, that's the president's decision to make. And, we'll be prepared to address it from a foreign policy perspective, whatever decision he makes on those things. That's his decision to make. Whether he makes it this weekend or a week from now or a month from now, he clearly wants to address both illegal migration, but ultimately also our economic interests.
Who is more?
Oh my goodness. This isn't good. I mean, whether you agree or disagree with Canada becoming the 51st state, it seems like everything that's happening right now is just leading to Trump basically flooding Canada with illegal immigrants to the point where, I mean, he's not personally doing it. It's just a product of people not wanting to be deported and coming to Canada because we are technically a safe haven for illegals, for terrorists and bad actors. I mean, that's something that we all know is there and heavily disagree that should be a thing. At least I hope that we can disagree that should be a thing. And I think that we're set up to really, I don't want to say be acquired. I would like to see Canada stay sovereign, somewhat sovereign a little bit, but that doesn't seem to be the case in the long run. I feel like Trump is playing this insane 4D, 5D, 6D chess, and it's going to have really bad repercussions on our country. I mean, look at the dollar today. I mean, it's I could find a better chart than this, but when you type in CAD to USD, 69 cents, and it's dropped below 69 cents. They're rounding up right now, but it's actually 68.5 or 68.6 right now. So not looking good. He's devaluing our dollar, and we're going to be flooded with a bunch of naughty people. And it's really not looking good. But what are the choices? What choices do we have? Well, we definitely need an election right now. This liberal election to figure out who's going to be the interim prime minister and the leader of the Liberal Party definitely needs to happen right now. I think people are just very fed up. I'm personally fed up with the fact that that is holding our country hostage. If we had an election, a federal election, when we should have, which would have been, technically years ago, but before the winter break, when Pierre Poilievre put not one, not 2, but 3 votes of non-confidence up on the board. Jagmeet shot down all 3, like the little cockroach he is. All of this kind of falls on Jagmeet Singh. Had he just supported the vote of non-confidence, we would have had a snap election and we wouldn't be facing people like this, Mark Carney, and this Indian model chick, Ruby Dullah. Who is she? Who is she? Who cares who she is? Why is she running for prime minister? By the way, Ruby, I would love to interview you, but let's take a look at this clip.
So far, carbon prices have been applied sparingly. They've been set far too low.
Mark Carney has always believed in the carbon tax. He helped design it. We do not need Trudeau 2.0. Vote for Ruby Dalla. Canada's comeback starts now.
The craziest part is that for the leader of the Liberal Party, she actually kind of makes the most sense. I don't know much about her, and maybe that's why it makes the most sense, but she's never supported a carbon tax. She hasn't been an MP. She literally has no baggage because we don't know where she came from, who she is. She hasn't supported any of these Liberal policies. Her coming into play here for the Liberal Party leadership race, it's like I predicted. And I said that it's going to take 5 to 10 years. Maybe you remember this, maybe you don't. But I've been saying this for quite some time. It's going to take 5, 10, 15 years for the Liberal Party to just completely have a revamp, change everything, get rid of Trudeau, get rid of Freeland, get rid of all of the people that we know, all those main characters, secondary, triary characters, all the backup crew of the Liberals. They need to be gone. They need to be wiped from the Liberal Party because the Liberal Party isn't the issue. It's 1, the board of directors of the Liberal Party, and 2, whoever is currently running with the Liberal Party. But their values are dependent on who's in the Liberal Party. Like, you just replace it with people that aren't radical crazy, and then we're talking. And then we got some real competition in terms of, different parties to pick from. And I think that needs to happen with the NDP as well. I'm not saying I support Ruby at all. I'm saying that she's literally the opposite of all of these other people that are running in the Liberal Party. And that's kind of a breath of fresh air. But yeah, let's keep our guards up on that one, folks. And then speaking of Mark Carney, let's take a look here at this video on what motivated Mark Carney's decision to end carbon pricing in Canada. Because as Ruby pointed out, Carney was an advisor to the Liberal Party for years. And so the carbon tax, he's not called carbon tax Carney for nothing. That's something that he supported from behind the scenes. So he may not be the face of the carbon tax the same way that Justin Trudeau is. Excuse me. But he's definitely a part of the problem. Now that he's distancing himself from Justin Trudeau and all of Trudeau's policies, that does not mean that he's to be trusted at all. But where is this coming from? Let's take a look.
Liberal leadership hopeful Mark Carney is vowing to scrap the consumer carbon tax if he becomes the next party leader.
So it means that you'll no longer have to pay more to fuel your car or heat your home. But when you choose an energy efficient appliance or an electric car or home insulation, you will be rewarded, and we will get the big polluters to pay for it.
Carney says Canada's current climate policy has become too divisive and says he will instead offer Canadians incentives to go green. For more, we turn to CTV's chief political correspondent and host of Power Play and Question Period, Vassy Kapelos. A lot to break down today, Vassy. Let's start with the Liberal leadership race. What's your take on what we heard today from Mark Carney?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. He's moved away from the consumer carbon price, but totally unsurprising. And that is because the policy itself, the carbon tax, has become so deeply unpopular and so much so associated with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And so I think this was expected. The campaign had certainly signaled it would go this way. Whether it convinces, people beyond the Liberal leadership race, Canadians writ large, that, this individual in particular, Mr. Carney, who has in the past stood by the consumer carbon price, will move away from it, I think is a different story. But at this point in time, in order to clear the way for other policies and sort of a different message, something that differentiates himself from the current prime minister.
Okay, so hold on. he stood by tooth and nail the consumer carbon tax, how we need to put a price on pollution and we need to be more environmentally friendly because climate change. It's the same thing over and over on repeat. He quite literally is Justin Trudeau 2.0. He's a more evolved version. There's like, you know how they say Trudeau is controlled by the WEF? Mark Carney is the WEF. He's technically sort of on the hierarchy of the World Economic Forum, Trudeau's boss. And the fact that he's been pulling the strings behind the scenes and in support of all this, and now he's going, we're pulling out. By the way, he's the last person to pull out his support for the carbon tax. The only person that's currently running on the Liberal side that supports it is Karina Gould, but she's not even a serious candidate. If there's 400,000 people that have registered as Liberal voters for the Liberal leadership election, I think Karina Gould would be lucky to get 15 or 20,000 votes. Like, I don't think she's a serious contender. Chrystia Freeland was, I believe, the first person to revoke her support of the carbon tax. Ruby never supported it. Chandra, or whatever the hell his name was, that Indian that doesn't speak French or English. We don't even know what the hell he's saying because we don't understand him. And now Mark Carney's pulling out of this. So it's just so bizarre. I get trying to distance yourself from Justin Trudeau, but these people have caused our economy to be where it is now. They've ruined everything with their policies, with their weak progressive approach, with their DEI hiring, with everything. And now they're doing this 180 about turn on stuff because they're not popular. I mean, it's just like, if you were a Liberal voter and you saw this, I would have to just not support any of them for turning their back on literally the pillars of the Liberal Party for the last 9+ years. That's insane. That's insane to me. I mean, good that they're turning around on this, but it's just so bizarre. If you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for everything.
You kind of had to do this. It's also worth pointing out that Chrystia Freeland, his main opponent, did the same thing.
Right, of course. All right, Vashi, let's go back to tariffs for a moment and news they will be implemented beginning tomorrow. The implications of this are huge for Canadian politicians, to even put it mildly.
Yeah, very much so. It's honestly like a tectonic, earth-shattering thing in Canadian politics. Everybody is reorienting all over it, or around it, I should say, the leadership race, each of the political parties, mainly because the big question is, does this become the big ballot box question whenever the election is held? It feels that way right now. Heather?
Vash?
We're getting into super dangerous territory. And I'm going to say this, even though it's been losing me subscribers right now. All of the politicians that are currently running for either the leadership race or running for prime minister, right? You've got Freeland, you've got Carney, and you have Pierre Poilievre, and also, I guess, Jagmeet Singh. When you look at their policies that they're wanting to put forward, right? We're going to scrap the tax. That's Pierre Poilievre's slogan. You know, you've heard it a million times. Scrap the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, stop the crime. Your home, my home, our home. Let's bring it home, right? Phenomenal things. But now you're seeing the Liberals that are running this leadership race. They're starting to take those ideas. I don't blame them. They're very good ideas. And they're starting to wear them as their own ideas, or agree that they are good ideas and say that they're going to put those forward. So now you have, when you look at the board of who is saying what, you have Pierre Poilievre with certain things that he's saying. You have now Mark Carney with certain things that he's saying that are identical or very similar to what Pierre Poilievre is saying. And then you have Freeland, who's also saying similar things that are to Carney and identical to Pierre. And so it's starting to get to be that everyone is agreeing that the carbon tax is bad. That's phenomenal. Hey, good. You're not going to see me say anything other than that. But this is the point I tried to make in my video earlier today, which lost me dozens of subscribers. But I'm going to say it because it's not my truth. It's the truth. I think the Conservatives need to start doing more. They need to start doing more. They need to, if they want to win, right? Pierre's got a tremendously large lead right now. But I do think that they need to start doing more and start to distance themselves further away from the Liberals, because the Liberals have distanced themselves. Trudeau is over here. The Liberals are now starting to be here, and Pierre is way over here. And they're starting to creep up on Pierre's, slogans, Pierre's policies, and that's not good. We don't want that. We want the leader of the opposition and the opposition party to be the opposite of what the Liberals are. I'm not suggesting that Pierre then becomes pro-consumer carbon tax. That would be absolutely ridiculous. I'm suggesting that if he wants to maintain a massive lead, he should start to do more, which is why at the beginning of this live stream, I said, I would like to see Pierre go to Alberta, go to the border with Danielle Smith, do the photo op. I don't care if it's just a photo op. Do it. We need it. We need the morale. We need the patriotism right now in Canada. Bring the media down, call CBC, CTV and say it's a joint interview with Premier Smith and leader of the opposition, soon to be next Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Poilievre, and say, here's what we've done as future Prime Minister. We're going to make sure this never happens. That would be a wicked, wicked thing to do. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe his staff watches this. Maybe they don't. Maybe he was already thinking of doing this, but I would personally like to see that from Pierre. And no mention of retaliatory tariffs. Please, please, please. I can't keep losing subscribers by making more videos criticizing that. But moving on, let's get into some of these posts on X, shall we? Canada is going to tank its own economy rather than back down from its communism. This is coming from a post here that almost has 1 million views. Million views on X. Breaking, Canada is prepared to offer pandemic level financial support to workers and businesses if the when the US imposes tariffs tomorrow. Officials emphasize that workers should not bear the cost of U.S. decisions, referencing past the blip responses as a model for potential aid per CBC. So here you go, and this is something that Jagmeet supports, man. Like the Liberals and Jagmeet are in cahoots again over this, that they want to provide these COVID type of relief responses to people that are affected, mostly affected, the most affected by the tariffs. And this is again where we run into so many problems that have so many questions that are so unanswered. How do you determine who is most affected by these tariffs? How do you make sure that the system isn't abused the way that CERB was? Are you going to claw back money like you did with the CERB? Are you printing more money? Likely the way that you did with the CERB, when our dollar is at its literal like all-time low in a long time. Maybe not ever, but it's really, really low right now. These are insane behaviors. I'm not an economist, but I know this is insane. Maybe I'm out to lunch. Maybe it's not insane. Let me know down in the comments. But I truly believe that printing more money and providing this type of relief response is putting us further into like really, really horrible debt when we're about to start a trade war and go way further into debt. I mean, I hate to say it, but it pisses me off. Like I commented on Jagmeet, a ratio to Jagmeet. I ratio Jagmeet Singh earlier on X. I can't read it because I use an R word that I probably would get banned from saying on YouTube, but let your imagination run wild. I said it's crazy to me that somebody like him, R word, like him, is able to be in politics and make all of these bad decisions when you have actually smart people out there that are qualified in this stuff. Or I don't want to say smart like me. I don't think that I'm smart at all, but I just see what Jagmeet Singh is doing, and I think that I could do a way better job than Jagmeet. Like, I really believe that. I truly believe that. And that's not me looking for people for confirmation bias or to, pump up my tires or whatever. I just think that all of us could probably do a better job than Jagmeet Singh. The way that he goes about these coalitions, the way that he goes about just trying to pander to people. Hey guys, we know that you're affected because we suck as a government, and we're going to print more money and put us further into debt so that we can continue to suck as a government. Please vote for us so we can continue to suck as a government. I don't understand the logic, but we for sure need change. And here's the thing that people are maybe not understanding. It was explained to me. I somewhat understand it, and I'm going to butcher it, but I'm going to try to explain it to you. When Jagmeet Singh says that he will support a vote of non-confidence in February or March, but then he also says that he's going to support the Liberals providing a relief program, just like we had with CERB, to people that are most affected by these tariffs from America. Those two things can't happen. That's contradicting one another. This has to do with supply. He has to allow the government to go to supply, which would mean to get supply from the Governor General. So Liberals would have to go beg the Governor General for more money. It's called going to supply. And that would mean that he wouldn't be able to vote in favor of non-confidence, or else he wouldn't be able to push forward these bills, these things that he wants to do. So it's contradicting one another. And he says one thing, he says another, and the both can't coexist. And people don't know this. And I didn't know this. I hear what he says, and it's like, I feel like that's a little suspicious. And then it gets explained to me, and I'm trying my best to explain it to you. I probably butchered it, but just know that the things that Jagmeet Singh is saying that he'll support the COVID-style relief for the tariffs and supporting a vote of non-confidence to take down the Liberals, those two things can't coincide. They just can't, because in order for one to exist, the other can't happen. It's very, very bizarre. But hey, that's Jagmeet Singh for you. And then to explain something a little bit more about these tariffs, we've got this post here from William on X. It says, Trump announced that he intends to impose 10% tariffs on Canadian oil and gas exports by February 18th, 2025. Alberta, Saskatchewan, and oil and gas producers warned the Liberal federal government about the urgent need to build pipelines and streamline the approval process for LNG terminals and pipeline projects. Despite these warnings, Trudeau and our environmental radical minister, Stephen Guilbeault, ignored them, while the Quebec Premier, Legault Poutine, blocked all pipeline projects planned to pass through Quebec. Now, Canada finds itself unprepared as President Trump moves to impose tariffs on Canadian oil and gas. Not because we did not have the ability to be prepared for such scenario, but because the Liberal government decided that it was better to play ideological games with Canada's economy. Japan, Ukraine, South Korea, they all came to Canada asking for our LNG. Justin Trudeau surprisingly said no. Trudeau said that there is no business case for LNG. Let's take a moment to look at where this got us now. And it's just goes to show you that Justin Trudeau again says one thing and does another. He approved, if I'm not mistaken, that huge LNG plant out in Kitimat, BC. It's like one of the largest LNG plants, the largest in Canada, maybe in North America, but it hasn't gotten to completion. It's like 95% the way there. Where is that? He doesn't want it to happen. He approved it, but doesn't want it to happen. And it's just all so confusing. And this is why, yes, we should be angry at Justin Trudeau and the Liberal government, but we should also be angry at Jagmeet Singh for blocking not one, not two, but trois votes of non-confidence that were put forward by the leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre, right before the Christmas break. All right, now let's take a look here at President Donald Trump saying, you're about to get screwed. Can the tariffs be prevented for Canada, China, and Mexico? Simply put, the answer is no.
Is there anything China, Canada, and Mexico can do tonight to forestall your implementation of tariffs tomorrow?
No, nothing. Not right now, no.
Not a negotiating tool?
No, it's not. No, it's a pure economic. We have big deficits with, as you know, with all three of them. And in one case, they're sending massive amounts of fentanyl, killing hundreds of thousands of people a year with the fentanyl. And in the other two cases, they're making it possible for this poison to get in, number one. And number two, we have big deficits, and it's something we're doing. And we'll possibly very substantially increase it. We're not. We'll see how it is. But it's a lot of money coming to the United States. As you know, we have about a $200 billion deficit with Canada, getting close to $200 billion. They've treated us very unfairly. And I say, why should we be subsidizing Canada? It's wonderful. I have so many friends in Canada. It's a great place.
Is there concession
But,
you're looking for, sir?
No, we're not looking for a concession. And we'll just see what happens. We'll see what happens. And with Mexico, it's the same thing. We have a $250 billion deficit, and we have a lot of people coming into the border, and now we've largely stopped that, but we've stopped that ourselves. I think they've done a fantastic job. You've seen the numbers, they've dropped to almost zero. But we've suffered under the past administration for years and years. We've suffered with...
Hold on a second. Did he just say that Mexico is doing a fantastic job?
Great place.
Is there concession
But,
you're looking for, sir?
No, we're not looking for a concession. And we'll just see what happens. We'll see what happens. And with Mexico, it's the same thing. We have a $250 billion deficit, and we have a lot of people coming into the border, and now we've largely stopped that, but we've stopped that ourselves. I think they've done a fantastic job. You've seen the numbers, they've dropped to almost zero. But we've suffered under the past administration.
No, he's praising his own border services. Oh my goodness. But Mexico is taking action. They're taking some crazy action. I think they had their largest drug bust ever, like just recently in the past 48 hours or 72 hours, if I'm not mistaken. We can't really say that about Canada. I mean, we're taking action. Wally Smith is, but that's about it.
And for years and years, we've suffered with millions of criminals coming into our country. Criminals, people from jails from all over the world. They come through Mexico, and they come through Canada too. A lot of them come through Canada, and a lot of fentanyl comes through Canada. And China makes the fentanyl. China makes the fentanyl, gives it to Mexico, puts it through Canada, puts it through different places, mostly Mexico, but also a lot through Canada. And so all three haven't treated us very well.
Yeah, this is very frustrating because when it actually comes down to this is what's very confusing. When you look at the numbers, I don't have the chart pulled up, but when you look at the numbers of how much fentanyl is coming in from Mexico versus from Canada into America, it's like widely different numbers. I can admit that. I understand that. Mexico, the chart is super high. When you look at a bar graph, it's like super high. And we look at Canada's for the past year, it's like minuscule, like super small. Trump just wants to make sure, yes, that we stop. I think it was like 47 pounds or whatever was how much entered in the past like year or two, which is a lot, but it's not something that's compared to 500 pounds or 10,000 pounds, like what happens in Mexico. Like it's tiny numbers if I'm not mistaken. But what he wants to see is the countries just do what he asks and then knows that he can kind of control the world a little bit more. And if I were an American, if I had voted for Trump, I would say, yep, we need to make sure that other countries are bowing down to the superpower. As a Canadian, it hurts to see that happen because I don't want us to be bullied. But at the same time, we don't really have a choice. We can fight back, but we're going to lose, and it's not going to hurt our politicians. It's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt me. It's going to hurt your kids and grandkids. It's going to hurt my kids, and it's just not good, and I don't want this, and chances are you don't want this either. And so that's kind of why we need to have a different approach than what Jagmeet Singh says we do. Here's this clip from the other day in case you missed it.
What we want to do is we want to build Canadian and buy Canadian. What we need to do is change our procurement rules, the way we buy things at the federal level. We need to make sure that we're favoring Canadian companies that produce the things that we need in our own country. We need to change the rules so that it favors also companies that have unionized workers that pay their workers a good wage.
Yeah, Singh saying build Canadian and buy Canadian. That's the takeaway. Justin Trudeau confirming to premiers last night that Canada is facing two phases of possible American trade action. But Trudeau saying there is still time to stop the planned tariffs from coming into effect on Saturday.
Yeah, there is not time to stop the tariffs, but there is time to take action and have them reversed and removed. But for those that missed it, from about 10 hours ago earlier this morning, before the White House press secretary stated that they are 100% coming on tomorrow, here's what Justin Trudeau said.
As President Trump stated yesterday, he is still committed to placing tariffs on Canada starting as early as tomorrow, possibly. Now, we don't know precisely what that could look like, but I do know two things. First, if the president does choose to implement any tariffs against Canada, we're ready with a response. A purposeful, forceful, but reasonable, immediate response. It's not what we want, but if he moves forward, we will also act. Deuxièmement, on est prêt pour tous les scénarios possibles. We're ready for any possible scenario.
And that is thanks to all of you. Your work is incredibly valuable, and its effects are already being felt.
Regions of the country, industries, thoughtful business leaders and thought leaders to unite as part of Team Canada, to be ready and flexible, whatever comes, is not just the right thing to do. It's also deeply reassuring to Canadians, reassuring to business owners, to workers, and to people around the world who look to Canada as a key partner. You've been speaking out, stressing that tariffs against Canada would have disastrous consequences for the United States, putting American jobs at risk, raising prices on Americans, and undermining our collective security.
I'm willing to bet. This is my bet. Somebody clip this and hold on to it. All right. Somebody clip this and hold on to it. I am willing to bet that in the next 2 weeks, in the next 14 days, as of February 14th, that you're going to have Doug Ford, who uses some form of either emergency powers or gets approval from the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, who resigned but didn't resign, to cut off the power in America. I'm giving it 14 days for Doug Ford to do that. What comes after that is something that I don't even know if I can predict. Would Trump then deploy the military into Canada to force the power to be turned back on? That's a possible scenario. Like, I don't want to laugh because I don't think that would end well. I don't think there would be any violence. I think it would be extremely intimidating. And that would be a way for Trump to basically just piss on a fire hydrant that is called Canada. But I've given it 14 days for Doug Ford, or for most likely Doug Ford. Out of all the premiers, he's been the one that's the most gung-ho about, let's cut the power off. Jagmeet Singh, fortunately, like, oh my goodness, thank you for not giving Jagmeet the power to run this country or the power to pretty much do anything. Because if that were the case, he would be cutting off all minerals and oil and gas to America. And that would probably definitely have some sort of military response by the United States. Like, I'm like 101% sure that America would not allow that to continue for more than like 72 hours. But I'm giving it 14 days for Doug Ford to turn off the power. And I my only guess, the only thing I'm predicting as a response is some military helicopters flying into Canada to where either not Doug Ford's office, but where they have the power, and say, turn it on now. Like, that's the only thing I'm predicting. I don't know how else it would work. Maybe Trump gets on the news and says, you have 24 hours or 12 hours to turn it on, or we're deploying the military. But that's my prediction. Let me know down in the comments what you guys predict is going to happen, because with 110% certainty, you're going to see that tariffs are coming on. Like, it's going to happen, and Canada is going to act fast, as they've been saying they're going to act fast. And it's going to I think we're about to see a movie. We're in for a nice, not so nice, comical, not so comical, action-packed, yet won't have any action, but it'll just have a bunch of reaction movie. The Can America 2025 movie that's released in February. It's going to be wild. So I hope you got popcorn. at least while you can still buy it, or at least while it's still on the shelves, or that you still have power, because we don't know how this is going to end. But we're in for a movie. Let's take a look now at Donald Trump saying we're gonna put tariffs on chips. Oh my goodness.
Well, eventually, we're going to put tariffs on chips. We're going to put tariffs on oil and gas. That'll happen fairly soon. I think around the 18th of February. And we're going to put a lot of tariffs on steel. We already have tariffs on steel, and we've saved our steel industry, but that was relatively small compared to what it'll be. But we're going to be putting tariffs on steel and aluminum and ultimately copper. Copper will take a little bit longer, and that'll happen pretty quickly. It'll mean it'll be a great boost for our steel industry. It'll make our steel industry very strong. If I didn't put the tariffs on years ago on steel, which actually Biden left because there was so much money that they couldn't do anything about it, we would have lost. We wouldn't have one steel mill in this country if I didn't do that. We saved the steel industry.
It is a wonderful time to be an American, and it's a scary time to be anyone else. Even the BBC is reporting on this. Let's take a look at what they are saying, because everyone is calling it a global trade war. Like, it's not just America and Canada. It's America seemingly versus almost everyone else in the world simultaneously. We're gonna tax Russia. We're gonna tax China. We're gonna tax our friends to the north and the south. Tax, tax, tax. Like, it's wild. It's wild. What a time to be alive. Sort of.
There are growing fears of a major global trade war tonight after President Trump announced sweeping tariffs on imports from Canada, Mexico and China starting tomorrow. And he added that very substantial tariffs would follow for the European Union. Goods exported from Canada and Mexico to the US will be hit with a 25% tariff. Products from China with 10%. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said his country would face difficult times as a result, but promised a forceful retaliation. From Washington, here's our North America editor, Sarah Smith.
He had promised to introduce tough tariffs on day one. President Trump's obviously a couple of weeks late, but clearly excited about one of his favourite policy tools.
I always say tariffs is the most beautiful word to me in the dictionary. Because tariffs are going to make us rich as hell. It's going to bring our country's businesses back that left us.
President Trump wants both Mexico and Canada to do more to stop migrants crossing their borders and into America, and to stem the flow of illegal drugs, including fentanyl, that's flooding into the US.
The president will be implementing tomorrow a 25% tariffs on Mexico, 25% tariffs on Canada, and a 10% tariff on China for the illegal fentanyl that they have sourced and allowed to distribute into our country.
Hundreds of billions of dollars worth of imports are trucked from Mexico and Canada into America and the other way around. They are each other's biggest trading partners by far. For instance, 90% of the avocados sold in America come from Mexico. Charging a 25% tax on each fruit that crosses the border will hurt Mexican exporters, but it also risks increasing prices for American consumers. Canada's biggest export to America is oil. Even 10% import tariffs risk raising costs for Americans, and of course Canada will also feel the pain if America buys less of their own.
If Alberta was its own country, which is seemingly more and more likely as time goes on, or even just a part of America, but if Alberta was its own country, the amount of money it makes from selling its oil and gas is, I think, on par to be one of the world's like top 10 or 15 like richest countries per GDP, right? Like, Alberta does a phenomenal amount of revenue. Unfortunately, all of that money that Alberta makes goes to other provinces and subsidizes them. And I think Alberta is really tired. And I did see a post on X from Danielle Smith. She's really tired. Albertans are exhausted of being the doormat for Canada, of being the province to make all of the money for the country in a net positive. Other provinces. Ontario makes money, but they're in a massive, massive deficit. Alberta is the only one to actually not really be in that big or any deficit. They make the most. And they are abused the most. All that money is going to all of the other provinces. Like Quebec. Oh my God.
Oil. The Prime Minister says he's ready to respond.
If the President does choose to implement any tariffs against Canada, we're ready with a response. Purposeful, forceful, but reasonable, immediate response.
10% tariffs will be charged on all the electronic and other goods that are shipped to America from China. Donald Trump says he wants China to stop fentanyl being exported to America, but of course it doesn't hurt to also punish one of your biggest global competitors. Donald Trump firmly believes he is the world's best negotiator and appears confident that punishing tariffs will force other nations to do what he wants. But if that doesn't happen quickly,
he kind of is the world's best negotiator, and he is getting what he wants. We've already seen Colombia. It took like 38 minutes, and he was tweeting about it while he was golfing for the president of Colombia, or whatever the hell his title is, to basically cave in and say, okay, president, we'll send you a plane and we'll take back everybody that you don't want that's from here. And then Mexico also caved in on something that was similar. Every country has kind of no choice but to bow down to Trump. And if countries want to do international trades through the sea, the only way to do that is with America. That's the only reason that international trade actually exists to where it is right now, is because America is constantly patrolling the seas, right? And making sure that other countries aren't interfering with trade, and other pirates like Somalia aren't doing nothing. So if America just stops protecting the world, stops funding all of this stuff, stops subsidizing countries, the world is gonna go bananas. That's my understanding. That's not me defending Trump slapping Canada with tariffs, but I just don't know if Canadian politicians are really factoring that in. Like, yeah, we should be more self-sufficient. Nobody thinks differently. We shouldn't be relying on America. We shouldn't be relying on other countries. Canada should be using our own oil and gas. We should have intra-provincial trade. We should be able to sell BC wine to, Saskatchewan, or Ontario wine to Alberta, or Alberta gas to literally all the provinces and territories. That would be phenomenal. And the only politician I mistakenly... See, I can admit my mistakes. I said in a previous video that politicians have not been saying that. And I was corrected. And I looked into it. And in fact, Pierre Poilievre has recently been saying that. I believe recently. I don't know how long exactly he has been saying that. But Pierre Poilievre has been raising awareness of the fact that Canada needs to be more pro intra-provincial trade. And once he is prime minister, that's one of his provinces. Dude, freaking 2 thumbs up, man. Like, that is awesome. That's what Canada needs, is that type of approach. I'm not a Pierre hater. I like a lot of Pierre's policies. I like his ideas. I like where he's coming. I don't like that he's mentioned the trade war, but I at least like and agree, and most of us watching this, either live or video on demand, can agree that we should be more self-sufficient. That's not to give the middle finger to America. That's not to stop making money with America, stop trade, get into a trade war, but we should be our own little ecosystem. We could prosper off of that if we had the right leadership. Is Pierre the person to do that? I mean, a lot of us are hoping, and I don't think he could screw it up worse than liberals. So that's a step in the right direction.
He is risking a trade war that could result in American voters paying the price.
And let's talk to Sarah in Washington tonight. The president's only really been talking about it in the last few minutes. Sarah, tell us more.
Yeah, he was in the Oval Office signing the executive order that will bring in these tariffs on Canada, Mexico and China. And he was asked if he had any plans to put tariffs on goods coming in from the EU. And he said, absolutely. He thinks the EU treats American products very unfairly, he said. And he referenced VAT, value-added tax, being levied at 20%.
Oh my God, that's another thing that they're talking about is should Canada be a part of the EU, or specifically this clip right here where Trump says that he will absolutely impose tariffs on the EU.
Are you going to impose tariff on the European Union?
What does that mean?
Are you going to impose tariff too on the European Union like you are going to do for Mexico and Canada?
Well, you're asking me a question because I'm sure you didn't hear. Am I going to impose tariffs on the European Union? Do you want the truthful answer, or should I give you a political answer? Absolutely. Absolutely. The European Union has treated us so terribly.
Oh my goodness. And there was like talks by the Toronto Star, the Toronto Sun, the Toronto Star, that started to plant the seed of should Canada be a part of the European Union. Well, even if that were the case, we're not running away from the tariffs. No matter where Canada tries to go in terms of an allegiance, in terms of an alliance or a coalition, we're still going to get hit with the tariffs. The only way to fight the tariffs is to do the damn things that Trump is asking. Please, 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 let's get it done. And then you've got this clip here from CTV acknowledging that nothing can be done to stop the tariffs.
Donald Trump says nothing can be done to stop him from bringing in tariffs on China, Mexico, and Canada. The U.S. president offered some new details today on what those tariffs will look like and confirmed oil and gas will be included. CTV's Rachel Ayala was following the developments for us today from Ottawa. Rachel.
Heather, midday indications that Canada could avoid trade action until March were short-lived. Trump's press secretary first confirming the 25% tariffs are coming on Saturday, and then Donald Trump reaffirmed that plan. Take a listen.
I was just with the president in the Oval Office, and I can confirm that tomorrow, the February 1st deadline that President Trump put into place at a statement several weeks ago continues. The president will be implementing tomorrow a 25% tariffs on Mexico, 25% tariffs on Canada, and a 10% tariff on China for the illegal fentanyl that they have sourced and allowed to distribute into our country, which has killed tens of millions of Americans. These are promises made and promises kept by the president.
Going to go back here to Rachel now. Rachel, what are we hearing about how the federal government is bracing for this?
Well, in addition, not just 25 for Mexico, 25 for Canada, and 10 for China, but in addition, it's 10% on Canadian oil and gas starting on February 18th.
Yeah, so Prime Minister Justin Trudeau met with his Canada-U.S. Relations Council today and said that Canada is ready to retaliate, even if it will cost us. Here's a bit of what he had to say.
I won't sugarcoat it. Our nation could be facing difficult times in the coming days and weeks. I know.
Dude, okay. I'm trying not to make a habit of this, but the dude right above me, oh my God, I feel like he's going to fly away with those ears. They're twice the size of Trudeau's. And they stick out, man. It's like Dumbo.
Canadians might be anxious and worried, but I want them to know the federal government, and indeed all orders of government, have their backs.
So far, we are hearing that the White House is expecting to release more details about the specifics of these tariffs within the next 24 hours. So far, though, the federal government, according to one senior source, has yet to receive any formal confirmation or communication from the Trump administration about when these tariffs could be imposed on Canada. Heather?
All right, Rachel.
Tomorrow. They're imposed on Canada tomorrow, man. This is just insane. I've got a couple more things to take a look at here, folks, but just so you know how serious our government is for combating tariffs and just kind of ongoing concerns, let's take a look here at what the hell is her position? Melanie Joly, G.I. Jane of Canada. Here's what she's posting on X. She's meeting with, what is this? when we work as partners and allies, Canada and the United States achieve so much together. Thank you, Senator Tim Kaine, for an excellent discussion. All right. I mean, she goes to the States and she meets, by the way, she's a foreign affairs minister. Okay. So she went to the States and met with a Democrat. Hey, that's good news, right? That's good. Or she went to the States and met with a senator. I just blew it for crying out loud. Forget the last 10 seconds. I need a pen. Men in Black, right? Forget the last 10 seconds. Okay, here we go. There you go. You forgot. Mélanie Joly, Canada's foreign minister, just went to America and met with this senator right here. You'd think that's good, right? You'd think that that's a good thing. But he's not a Republican senator. He's a Democrat. He can't do anything. He's useless. He's nothing. He's like the NDP or like a random MP for Bloc Québécois, Poutine. Like, that's insane. And he's a friend with Hillary Clinton. That's who this guy is. He's useless. He has no power. He's a Democrat. I get that the liberals and the Democrats work hand in hand. They're like scissoring, okay? They're a couple of progressive women that scissor. I get that. But you're going down to try and talk about trade wars and negotiations and how to avoid this, and you go to talk to a senator that has literally no power, no say in anything? Am I missing something? Because this just makes me want to drink. I just want to drink. And I don't even know how long we can afford to drink anymore. Because they're going to tax beer. And then we can't afford beer. And then we can't get ketchup with our fries. So then we can't eat French fries with ketchup anymore. Like, none of this is making any sense. It's just mind-boggling. And then let's take a look here at this dude, Mr. Nanos. All right? How Canada has become Donald Trump's punching bag, for crying out loud. Everyone's Donald Trump's punching bag.
Nick, you have been tracking for, correct me if I'm wrong, 18 years how Canadians feel about our reputation internationally, and you have some shocking news.
Yeah. For the last 18 years, every year we would ask about how Canadians feel about Canada's international reputation, whether they think that it's improved or not improved over the past year. And 4%, Michael, count it 4, that's less than 1 out of every 20, believe that our international reputation has improved over the past year. Another 6% think that it's somewhat improved. But check out those negative numbers. The proportion of Canadians that think that it has outright not improved or somewhat not improved, more than 2 out of every 3 say that it's gotten worse. And let's face it, we've been a punching bag for Donald Trump on the international stage. Him talking about Canada being the 51st state, him basically engaging in a tariff war or slapping tariffs on Canadian goods. Not good for the Canadian reputation. So just think Canada's basically become a target. Why don't we just say Donald Trump's favorite target? Favorite punching bag. It seems like every time he has a press conference and he talks about tariffs, we're at the top of the list, and the numbers reflect that. The other thing that's quite important, this is the worst score on record for our international reputation and whether it's improved or not in 18 years. Not good.
That is even lower than when Stephen Harper was in his last year as Prime Minister.
Exactly. And, this speaks to the fact that, Stephen Harper's focused a lot on domestic politics, especially at the beginning of his mandate. But, these.
Why are they talking about Harper? Like, this is ridiculous. Why are they talking about Harper? That's like if Trump is hyper focusing on Bush or on Obama. Like, who cares? Just get the job done. I get talking about Biden, right? I get that. But that was literally 2 weeks ago. Biden was still president. This is crazy.
Numbers don't bode well. It's kind of like you look at the numbers for the previous government, what they looked like before they lost, and this is looking very similar.
9 years.
National reputation front.
I remember when Harper was sort of, disengaging, and maybe it's fair to say, with the United Nations, and Justin Trudeau was campaigning to re-engage with the United Nations, get us back on the UN Security Council. He was, traveling around the world, meeting international leaders, and according to this,
all right. I mean, I can't listen to these guys anymore. This is crazy. Who cares what the hell Harper did? It was so freaking long ago, man. So long ago. But the good news about all of this is tonight, Justin Trudeau spoke with Trump. That's right. Justin Trudeau had a meeting with Trump and they talked it out. So we've got it figured out. At 7 p.m. Eastern, Trudeau spoke with Trump, and it's now almost 7 p.m. Pacific. So this happened, right? Trump and Trudeau met because, of course, Prime Minister of Canada, who's getting hit with tariffs, would obviously, if he says he's going to talk to the president who's putting those tariffs on, would actually do it, right? Nope. They were supposed to talk. They still haven't talked. Here you go. Prime Minister's Office Press Secretary Jenna Gassamba, speaking around 7 p.m. Eastern, says Trudeau and Donald Trump have not talked today. Trudeau was supposed to talk with Trump, and they were supposed to maybe say, hey, what's going on? What's going on, Don? What's going on? How do we fix this? Even our prime minister, but not prime minister. Even our leader, but not leader, isn't even there. Where is he? Why is he allowed to talk into a microphone using government resources? I don't understand. I don't understand why Trudeau is doing any of this. My goodness, man. Trump is really freaking taking advantage of our misfortunes right now. The one video I do want to finish here is this BBC video, because this kind of breaks down what the heck is actually going on and maybe what we can expect.
Which he seems to think is akin to some kind of trade tariff that he wants to counter. So he didn't say when and he didn't say what level of tariffs, but he did say he wants to do it. Have a listen to this.
And we have a tremendous deficit with the European Union, so we'll be doing something very substantial with the European Union. We're going to bring the level up to where it should be.
Now, the level of tariffs he's talking about, 25% against Mexico and Canada, 10% on China, these are huge. This is not the normal level at which countries tend to operate when they're doing these trade negotiations. And of course, it's actually about Donald Trump trying to enforce an entirely different policy on the border with these countries asking for their cooperation. So this is something pretty new, and it could be risky. I mean, he said whilst he was in the Oval Office there that there is a chance that the costs will be passed on to consumers. And he knows that if anything he did was to increase prices in America, put inflation up, that would be very, very dangerous for his popularity. So I wonder if he's trying to make a case that this will be done very quickly. If he gets what he wants from Canada, Mexico and China, then these tariffs won't have to be in place for very long, and he won't risk putting the costs up for American consumers.
Sarah, thank you. Sarah Smith. Well, many Chinese businesses were certain that tariffs like this were on their way and have been taking preemptive action. As Laura Bicker reports, many have moved their production lines offshore to places including Cambodia.
Wow.
This all-American cowboy boot.
By the way, up until right now, I'm not plugged into Chinese news. Let's be honest. None of us really are. We don't know what the hell's going on in China. But I'm not plugged into Mexican news. I'm not plugged into Colombia news, Cambodia news. I'm not plugged into other countries' news other than America. And a lot of it is not as, it's not nearly as in-depth as Canadian news. So I don't know how many other countries that are being hit with tariffs or threats from tariffs by Trump. I don't know how many of those countries have a similar response that Canada does. From what I know right now, the only country that's ready to hit Trump with retaliatory tariffs and a retaliatory response is Canada. I could be wrong. I could very well be wrong. Let me know down in the comments if I'm wrong. let me know down in the comments if you've seen another country have a similar response as what Canada is saying they are going to do. But that's kind of interesting, is that the only country that I'm aware of that's wanting to hit America with a retaliatory response is Canada.
Once crafted to conquer the Wild West, has been made here in China for decades. But production has slowed as orders dwindle. US buyers don't want to risk more of Donald Trump's tariffs on Chinese-made goods. Mr. Peng says 100 different skills are needed to make each shoe. That's why he doesn't want to move the workshop out of China.
Subtitles.
It is the workers at the bottom who suffer. With higher tariffs, we have higher costs. With higher costs, we have fewer orders. The workers' income will decrease.
These are the victims at the centre of Mr. Trump's trade war. A skilled workforce that know no other job. Other Chinese companies, however, are on the move.
So China's response is, okay, well, America wants to hit us with tariffs, so instead of sending stuff to America, we're just going to send it to other countries. So that's an interesting response. It's a very, very interesting response that I haven't seen Canada do, except oil and gas. The only thing that Canada is similar to China's response is, well, we're not going to sell our oil and gas and LNG or whatever to America. We're going to ship that overseas to other countries, find different markets, right? South Korea, Japan, whatever other countries, Russia, who knows? We'll put some oil and gas on the border of Ukraine and Russia, and whoever gets to it first pays us. How about that? That way, Canada isn't directly funding Russia. I mean, come on, man. That's a different approach. I would say a better response to a retaliatory response with tariffs, but either way, it's an absolute mess. It's a complete disaster.
Parts of Cambodia have given itself to Beijing. Half the country's investment now flows from China. These clothes are heading to US firms like Walmart and Costco. The factory and its workers are in Cambodia, but most of the materials still come from China. Huang Zhaodong shows off his newly built factory.
Wait, hold on. These are like sweatshops. These are sweatshops, and that's what's on the shelves in Costco and Walmart? Why do I feel like I should have known that, but I didn't know that? Why am I surprised by that? I feel like I knew that, but for some reason that's surprising that he just said that these people right here in these working conditions that are probably paid like $3 a day or something, that's going into Costco and Walmart. Why am I surprised? Is anyone else surprised? Am I letting my intrusive thoughts get the better of me here? Why is that surprising? I have no idea.
In Phnom Penh as he gets ready for larger orders.
Factories along the whole supply chain are relocating. As a result, lots of Chinese companies are investing in Cambodia and Southeast Asia.
This factory is hiring hundreds more workers as profits soar. Successes like this one increase China's footprint across Southeast Asia.
Chinese firms have been coming here for over a decade, but that is now accelerating. Around 90% of all garment factories in this country are now Chinese run or Chinese owned.
President Trump's tariffs have not stopped China's rise. Beijing has simply gone elsewhere to do business. US-bound crates now ship from Cambodia as China navigates its way through this trade war. It may be losing some money in this battle, but it is gaining power and influence. Laura Bicker, BBC News.
Okay, so before I met my wife, I had purchased a bunch of my clothes. It was all from Lululemon It was because I living on Vancouver, right? Climate's very temperate. It was all Lululemon and like Arc'teryx, like super expensive stuff, right? Pants that are like freaking ridiculously priced, like $230. I had like a few pairs, right? I splurged. I had like really nice clothes, a single, living in a van. I was like, cool, this is my life. And then, get married, have kids, bills start to add up. It's like, okay, I'm not going to wear all those clothes. Also because they don't necessarily fit the way that they used to. I don't know. Maybe I think I've put them through the washing machine and the dryer too much and they've shrunk. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. And anyone who disagrees with that is going to get banned immediately in the live chat. But the clothes don't fit no more. So where am I shopping? Where am I getting my clothes? I'm not splurging on good clothes now. All my clothes is from Walmart. This is like an $8 or $10 large black shirt or extra large black shirt from Walmart. My jeans are from Walmart. I was under the impression, I don't know why, but I was under the impression that the clothes from Walmart, the jeans and the shirts and stuff like that, that was all made by in China, but like a factory, not people, just like a machine would like just put it through and machines would do all the stitching. I didn't realize it was people doing all that for everything. That just goes to show how much I know. That's a little mind blowing. And I think we're going to end it on that level. And I'm heavily monitoring the chat, and anyone who fat shames me gets totally banned. No, I get it. Kids and life and stuff like that gets in the way, man. I'm surprised I even did a live stream today. I'm an hour and 15 minutes into it. I was defeated. I sat here. Affirmation, affirmation, affirmation. You can do it. You can do it. Go live, act normal. Right before I went live, because let's face it, when you got kids, some days the parents win and some days the parents lose. And today we lost. My wife and I lost. Our kids won. Our kids won big time, man. That trip from Tofino back to the other part of the island that we're at right now, brutal. Our daughter puked in the car at the stop on the road from Tofino, that windy, narrow road. Brutal. We lost. The parents lost to the kids. Kids won. Parents 0. So I didn't even know if I had the energy to go live today, but I'm glad I did. I had a phenomenal time, guys. I really did have a phenomenal time. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this live stream. I know it was very much last minute. And I hope, from an entertainment perspective and from an education perspective, and just kind of, siphoning through the news, that it lived up to everyone's expectations. I think the underlying message here is that we're in for some really tough times in Canada, like some really, really tough times. And I just want to make sure that our leaders are actually doing what's best for Canadians. I understand the mentality of we need to fight back and stand up for ourselves. I get it. I fully get it. But I don't think that this is the right approach with America. Not under this version of Trump. I think that this is very much the wrong approach, and we should be doing what we need to do to get these tariffs off, focusing all of our attention on that. Before I do sign off, I want to acknowledge the super chats because I'm really, really bad for that. People do pay money to say some messages, and usually, even though I'm extremely tired after some live streams, I just sign off. So I'm not going to do that this time. We're going to read some. But for everyone else who wants to dip out right now, thank you so much for tuning in, guys and gals, since those are the only two options. Yes. I want to thank everybody for being here, and I hope you guys stay tuned for some more videos in the coming days. This weekend's going to be crazy, jam-packed with content, lots of stuff going on, and I think we're finally going to hear from Justin Trudeau sometime tomorrow, since he didn't end up speaking today. But first super chat to acknowledge is Jilly Peppers with the $3 Canadian. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. Conrad Pazowski with the 2. The UE take Canada to Schengen and move oil to Europe. We could start selling more oil to Europe. I think we could. I don't really have the ins and outs of this stuff. I've got friends that advise me. I've got people that advise me. So if you ever see me on my phone, I apologize. I've been told that I'm on my phone quite a bit. You can see my eyes are looking down, but that's not to be rude. I'm not scrolling freaking TikTok or Instagram. I'm getting messages, either talking points or people are sending me stuff to be able to just really like affirm what I'm saying and try to get my point across. Because we all hopefully have people in our lives that are smarter than us, and I've got a lot of those people, and those messages come through when I'm live. So keep that in mind. Jacob Hawley with the 10 American. Yeah, bro, that's like $30 Canadian. Woohoo! Woohoo! There you go. We should tariff Canada until Canada stops hurting our Midwest farmers. I woohooed too early. Ontario is threatening to shut off our power. We're angry. We must remove Trudeau. Us Americans in Wisconsin are angry. Jacob, we're with you. I don't agree that we should continue to tariff Canada until Canada stops hurting your Midwest farmers. But I think the solution moving forward is working together with our nation's leaders and finding a compromise that can be beneficial to both of us. Damn, that was a good political answer. That was a pretty decent political answer. That was all on my own. Just 456 BC with the 279. You're finally out of your fifth wheel. No. Yeah, no. House sitting. We'll be back in the fifth wheel in a few days. Mike with the 10 American. Yeah, dude. Yes. The American dollars. Yes. So much Canadian money. Love him or hate him, Jordan Peterson called us about 10 years ago. The wokesters have destroyed Canada. Yup, they really have. They absolutely have. It's plagued our country. At all levels. The citizens, the woke citizens, the woke municipal level, the provincial level, the federal level. It really is. It really is bad. And Jordan Peterson's done a phenomenal job of shining a light on that. Jacob, again, with the 10 American. Oh yeah, buddy. This is a lot. This is a lot of money, folks. This is a lot of money. If Ford shuts off our power, we restart our generators in the Fox cities. We send State Guard and Coast Guard to seize Canadian ships and fisheries and fishers in our Great Lakes until Canada agrees for our demands. Now, I don't want to start a war with the comments. But yeah, I agree that if Ford does shut off power in America, it's going to get ugly. Like Trump will not just let that happen and say, well, I guess we slapped you and you punched us and let's call it even, Trudeau, or whoever's running Canada. I think that there's going to be a retaliatory response by Canada in the next 14 days of February. And America is going to really swing their D around, and it's going to get ugly. Chris Shivs with the $27.99. How about Alberta becoming a corridor up to the 3 northern territories? This would certainly be one way to deal with the Arctic sovereignty issue, along with opening up the plethora of natural resources we have north of the 60th parallel. That's not a bad idea. I think that opening up intra-provincial trade is like one of the best things that we can do for our country. Opening up that ability for provinces and territories to trade their own goods to each other is like really going to increase productivity and get things done. I don't even know why it's not a thing right now. I have no idea why it's not a thing. But Justin Trudeau has been running the show, so maybe that's an idea as to why. Albert Nada with the 5 saying Alberta deserves more respect. More respect to be sure. If not for oil, Quebec would be a wasteland. Alberta deserves more respect for sure is probably what you're trying to say. Yes, that is very, very true. Alberta is basically putting Canada on its shoulders and making sure that we're not sinking. They are doing a phenomenal job, and the federal government treats Alberta like absolute crap. And I hope that with new leadership, even if our federal election is all the way at the end of October of this year, I hope whoever wins this leadership race for the Liberal Party starts to treat Alberta with the respect that they deserve. That would be nice. That would be nice. Ruby for leader. I don't know. I wouldn't mind talking to her though, because she seems to be the opposite of other liberals, which is interesting. Mike with the 5 American. Woo-hoo! Alberta, you are welcome to join the U.S. The rest of you, not so much. That's fair. And then Mike again with the 5 American saying, bend the knee, Canada. I'm sure that caused a bit of a stir in the comments. Coco 9004 with the 2 super stickers saying, hey, you. Thank you, Coco. Mike again with the 5 saying, Alberta, come join us. You'll love being an American. There's a lot of Canadians that are very pro-American, pro becoming 51st state, pro just America. A lot of Canadians love to buy stuff in America. A lot of Canadians hold American investments. A lot of Canadians hold American investments. A lot of Canadians travel in America. A lot of Canadians would have probably no problem moving to America. Not necessarily the majority of Canadians, but a lot. And a lot doesn't mean hundreds of thousands. I think we're talking about millions. Jacob, again with the 5 Americans, saying another plane crash in Philadelphia. More than 6 dead and multiple buildings on fire. Oh my God. That's horrible. What the hell is going on, man? This is why conspiracies start, is because of this. Right? That plane crashed into the helicopter that just happened the other day, and now this. Ay, man, that's not good. Not good at all. Thank you for that, Jacob. I will do my best to add that into a video tomorrow as we know more information. Cree 88 TCD with the 16 months. Holy shit, dude. With the 16 months membership. Holy crying out loud. Mr. Sunshine, happy Friday, brother. Thank you for all you do. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. That's very kind. And then Vile Man with the 10 Canadian. Canada needs to start being more independent if other countries do not want to play fairly in the big sandbox. We can refine our own oil, and should not have to pay twice for soft lumber. Thanks, Dev. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that makes sense. We should absolutely be doing those things. We should very much be refining our own oil. We should be selling it intra-provincially. We very much should be doing our own lumber and not having to buy it back or pay twice for it. There's a lot of things that is above my weight class that I'm sure are happening that I'm not even necessarily aware of or even versed in, that I'm trying to learn more about, that will be better for Canada. This is what makes politics so interesting. It's ever evolving. There isn't just a one size fits all answer. What is good today wasn't necessarily good 6 months or a year ago. Some things will pretty much always be good. Intra-provincial trade, I don't see why that would ever be bad. So that should be just set in stone and never be able to be reversed. But this is what's so interesting about, especially politics right now, with Trump going about things the way that he is. It's a learning curve on how to negotiate things. I mean, look, I don't think we're going to have tariffs. We're not going to be in a 1 year long trade war. I hope to freaking God himself that we're not going to be in a 1 year trade war. Okay. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think that we're going to be in these types of negotiations for like a few months with a new Liberal leader and an interim prime minister. I think you're going to see you're going to start to see maybe some of these tariff threats or actual tariffs get removed. But I don't think this is going to be like a multi-year thing. That being said, it's very interesting times to experience this version of Trump, learning how to properly negotiate with this version of Trump, and also learning how Canada should and can be more self-sufficient. That's something that we've been really lacking for like ever. Really? I mean, I've seen on X, some people have said that there was a real opportunity for Canada to be like one of the big players on the world stage had we taken a different route. And that different route, I think, is something that's probably worth exploring. And the way that we get there is by having proper leadership to run our own show, be more self-sufficient. But again, that's my opinion in combination with just new things that I'm learning. I would love to know yours as we wrap up this live stream. For everyone who has stuck around for this last few minutes here while I read off some of the super chats, I want to thank you guys. I want to thank everybody for being here once again. If you haven't yet already, I'd like to encourage you guys one last time to hit the like button and subscribe because I'm losing subscribers for some of the critique I've been doing towards Pierre. But hey, that's the truth. I got to stick to the truth, folks. I got to stick to the truth. I will see you all in a video tomorrow morning. Peace and love. Enjoy the rest of your night. Bye for now.